Hey Dylan, thanks for taking my call.
Hey Dylan, big fan of the show.
Huge fan of the show. Love what you're doing.
Big fan of the show. I'm so glad to have a minute of your time.
Hi, Dylan. It's Robin.
Dude, Dylan.
Look, I cannot help you. I'm sorry.
It's
not hard to understand, okay? So here's my thought. You would be crazy to think that.
Hey everybody, welcome into Hey Dylan. I'm on the Dylan Berry Network. I'm your host, Dylan Berry. This is the show where I give my takes on the world. I share stories. I enlighten. That's really why I'm here. I realize that there are a lot of needs in the world, but I know a large one is my voice, and so that's why I'm here to share to the people everything they need to know. And something. Let me tell you about this episode. All right, this episode, I'm going to be sharing a story with a guest here on the show. We got to do something really, really cool. As you know, I live right outside New York City, and me and a buddy got to go to Saturday Night Live, the May 5th taping, hosted by Donald Glover and musical guest Childish Gambino. And we're gonna get into it, how we did it, why we did it, what it was like. We're gonna break everything down for you. And if you come to New York, or you are in New York, you can hopefully maybe jump in on this experience. So to begin, I want to introduce my guest today. He actually called into the show once. Hopefully his problems got taken care of. Maybe we can follow up with that. But he's a friend I met through the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater. We took an improv class together. He saw me on a stage. It was my first celebrity kind of encounter ever, because he's like, dude, I saw you on stage once. And I didn't know who he was. And now we're here at his apartment in Williamsburg. And we're recording. Everyone give it up for Chris Tedeschi. Chris, how's it going?
What up? I'm doing pretty well. I'm excited to talk about SNL.
Yeah.
Next time maybe just introduce me as a man of the people.
Ooh, okay, yeah. We will get into that, because there is someone here that we'll talk about that is not a man of the people. Chris, so we got to go to SNL. And we are now 5 days after it, 5 or 6 days after it.
Yeah, it's hard to remember, because it felt like such a big, chunk of our life.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
No, it wasn't that much.
About a week ago, we were 7 hours into standing in line. Or it's not standing in line, we were sitting in line. So pretty much what we did is we got in line on Friday the 4th at 9 a.m. We had two lawn chairs. We set them up 9 a.m. and we were going to stay in line for the next 22 hours to get standby tickets for SNL to maybe potentially get in. Now, Chris, why did we want to go to SNL? Why did you want to go to SNL?
SNL is just something that I've religiously watched every week since I was an early teen. It wasn't even something that necessarily I had a lot of friends that were into. It was just a thing for me, and when I got into college, I forced everyone in the dorm to always watch it with me. I never missed an episode, so I've always wanted to see a taping, and Donald Glover being there was this is the one. It has to happen on this one.
Yep.
Let's go for broke.
Yeah, totally same for me. I loved SNL from before I was allowed to, I was too young, but I was watching, I was laughing at things I didn't get, but it was silly, it was funny.
Totally.
Loved it. We grew up, we watched in our house the Adam Sandler Best Of, and we watched that over and over and over again. For some reason, that was a big deal in our house, or the Chris Farley Best Of.
Yeah.
In the 90s, but really the SNL cast I remember loving was the Fred Armisen, Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig kind of era of SNL. But yeah, same for me, man. I was I really want to do this. And so the way they hand out tickets at the beginning of the year is in August or June. They do a lottery. Chris,
I've entered for legitimately probably 5 years, and I've never heard back. So it's from what I've heard, it's harder to win that than win the actual lottery.
Right. Yeah. They say that the people who get in SNL, usually you have to be related to someone you have to win the lottery, or you have to do a standby line, and that's what we did.
Or you have to introduce the musical act just to get to go to the show, which is apparently what happened when we went.
And so for us, we said let's try for the standby line, and I think you told me about it originally. We planned to do this 8 months ago. We should say that we wanted to go see Kumail Nanjiani in October. Didn't work out. We both hurt ourselves, or we both were not in physical shape to do it.
I think seeing SNL is something we both always wanted to do, but it's not something that I would want to do alone, waiting in line that long. Although there were people that seemed to do that, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was mind blowing, the people in that line, and we'll get into that. But yeah, so we decided we're gonna do this standby line, and we were thinking, how early do we line up? And there's a girl who has a blog called Girl with a Remote. She has a blog of the guide to standby line, and you followed a few Reddit boards who kind of gave you tips to what do you do, where do you sit, what should you bring, all this stuff, because you're camping out on the street of New York on 48th Street, in between 5th and 6th Ave, and you're just camping out.
And you start hearing so many different things from all the different blogs that it drives you crazy. And everyone in line is like pretending that they're all like the Bible and this is how it goes, and which isn't necessarily the case at all for all we knew. Right. It could have been totally just not like our experience.
Right. And they a few notes about the blog that we read and we kind of went off of is they said that I think it was when Tina Fey and Amy Poehler hosted with Bruce Springsteen as the musical guest, I think people lined up starting on Wednesday. Yeah. And those people got tickets on Saturday morning. And there were people like Jonah Hill. I think people lined up at 7 p.m. on a Friday, which, that's only about a 12-hour wait. And we were thinking, honestly, originally, I think we were thinking Friday night. Let's just go Friday evening and line up originally when we were thinking about it.
It was hard, especially with this one, because Donald Glover, like, as far as a household where you're including old people that aren't, hip with the times, more people might know who Tina Fey is, but the people that know who Donald Glover is and want to see him are like very dedicated. Yeah. So like, I didn't know what to expect as far as how many people would be there.
Yeah, and it honestly blew us away. So we got there at around 9-ish, and we were like, man, I wonder if we can see where the line is. And we didn't for a while. As we
didn't know if there would be a line, if there would be a super long line.
Yeah. And so we got there and we're like, oh, shoot. Because we saw a large group of people and if we looked really quick, it felt like this line is endless.
Yeah, no, legitimately, at first I was like, okay, are we going to do this? Yeah. Like, because I'm glad we got there when we did, because I was almost kind of like, maybe we shouldn't do this.
Right, and the girl who posted the blog said that if you're in within the first 50, you're guaranteed. You're pretty good in terms of seeing the live show, because when you line up, the SNL pages, the kind of interns, if you will, come out and they hand out tickets and they ask you, do you want to see dress rehearsal or live? Now the dress rehearsal is, from what we've heard and read, is they record all the sketches, but they do more sketches, they do more jokes, they try out lots of different things to kind of see what it's like, and you have the chance to go to that or the live taping. And so we got in line, and we definitely sat there for like 10 minutes thinking, shoot, dude, do we do this?
They kind of quickly pushed the line closer together because it was really spread out, and that made me feel like a lot of relief right away. Because we counted and we were in a good number, but once it got shorter, just because there were people spread out, like with feet in between them, it felt a little more attainable, a little more like I'm willing to try this out.
Yep, and we counted, and the people around us kind of counted ahead of us, and it felt like we were around 50. And I know, and when we were counting, there were kind of a lot of empty sleeping bags, so people must have gotten up, and so we were around 50, and we were thinking, dude, this is a risk. And then people's
friends started to come later, and I was getting so angry every time.
And I think we ended up being like 54, because what was it, 27 by the time it got to us.
It was.
So we were about 55-ish in line, and we were just kind of like, we're like, dude, let's just do it.
We were 55 in line. It was 27. That's exactly what it was.
Yep. And so we were like, hey, let's just do it. And so we sat down at 9 a.m. and I remember one of the first things, Chris, you said to me was, dude, in 12 hours we will be 10 hours away.
Yeah, I had a really interesting system of keeping track of time. We were in a weird spot too, because I'd heard you might make friends with the people in the line, and there was only one person behind us before it switched to like the next section of the line, because that would have been blocking a drive.
There's a garage driveway.
And for a while we didn't talk to the person behind us, and eventually Dylan was on a phone call, and I got bored, and I just looked over and I was like, hey man, and we just started talking about like why he came, kind of what we just talked about at the beginning of this. And he ended up being like the best guy.
Dude, shout out Tim. I'm gonna send him this link to Tim. Tim, he's from Boston. He came with his girlfriend, I believe, and he was a really cool guy. That was one of the things they say in the blog is get to know the people around you. And what I loved is that everyone around us was just as crazy as we were, right? You know,
Yeah.
they were sitting in line for 22 hours for the girl in front of us, who was a diehard Donald Glover fan, really didn't seem to care about SNL.
Yeah.
From the way we were talking about her, but she wanted to see Donald Glover. And then,
That's the vibe I got from
Yeah.
a lot, just looking at the
Right.
crowd, kind of just first impressions is
Right.
a lot of like young, like Childish Gambino fans.
yes. And I think so many people read the same blog too, it seemed like too,
Sure.
because what's crazy is we found out the Will Ferrell thing. Talk a little bit about that. The Will Ferrell to Childish Gambino. It's crazy.
Supposedly, for Will Ferrell, there was like 50 people in line, and
Yeah.
some people like hypothesized that maybe they thought it would be so full that they didn't try,
Right.
and pretty much everyone was able to get in. And yeah, Donald Glover had a much longer line than what the blogs were saying
Yes.
are the usual. That could be true or it could
Yeah.
not be true. So that was pretty cool. I think it was mostly because people were there for him more
Yeah.
than there for the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. It probably ended up being about 200 people. I would say maybe 150 or high.
You'd be safe between that range for
Right.
sure. I feel.
Yeah, it was wild to kind of see that, and a lot of the blogospheres and the Reddits were saying like, "Hey, I showed up at 5 a.m. right 2 hours before handing out tickets,
Yeah.
and I got tickets." And so some people read that and showed up the next morning at 5 a.m.
They
and
were in
like,
for a rude
they're like,
stress.
"Is this the end of the line?"
Yeah.
Because we had that large gap between us. We're like, "Nope, it goes
Yeah.
around the building."
And we should say, like, it's good that we got there when we did, because we got there at about 9, as you said, and
Yeah.
about an hour later, I would say the line had almost doubled, if
yeah.
not tripled in size, and the people behind that probably didn't get in. I
Right.
can't say that for sure. They
Right.
definitely wouldn't have gone in to dress
Yeah.
or to live if a lot of people said live.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got there just in time, I think, because the line grew very quickly.
It did, yeah. And honestly, we lucked out with a day that was beautiful. It was like 70
Yeah.
degrees. I was in shorts and a t-shirt, and man, we were just chilling from there on out.
Yeah.
We got coffee right away. We just did a lot of talking, played a lot of Heads Up. Shout out Ellen DeGeneres. Thank you. Probably killed 3 hours of our time playing Heads
I
Up.
went home and paid for it, like, because I enjoyed it so much. After
That's so
the show.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that. One crazy thing that kept happening in line, and this was in the blog too. I'm gonna reference it a lot, but she said, "Hey, bring a sign because we're in Midtown, right by Rockefeller Center, which means tourists are everywhere." And so what we did is I wanted to get a poster board, but instead we had this little whiteboard, and we wrote, "We're in line for SNL." And what was so funny is these people would walk by, and then they would see our whiteboard. And remember, we're 50, so they walk by this huge crowd thinking, what are these people in line for? It's in front of the Nintendo store. A lot of people thought
Yeah.
maybe we were waiting for the new Nintendo game.
Yeah.
And
Like a bunch of nerds.
nerds,
Like,
yeah. Who would
yeah.
wait in line that long? And yeah, people would stop and go, "Oh, thank you so much for your sign." And these people are clearly from out of town because they're talking to strangers.
But
This is New
people
York.
kept asking sometimes even after that. So we found a discarded sign
Yeah.
that had a picture of Donald Glover saying he was hosting SNL. Blah, blah, blah. Maybe Dylan can throw that up on the official Instagram for the Barry Bush.
Yeah. The Barry Bush.
But yeah, like, and then people asked, after we had both of those, we also even put out a book
Yes.
about the history of Saturday Night Live, and people would stop and say, "What is SNL?"
Ooh, what is SNL? Yeah. I don't know what that was, but
That was a New York accent.
Yeah.
I'm not very good with accents.
yeah.
But we would tell Dylan got this very like scripted response that he
Yeah, I
started
did.
doing. He was like, "Yeah, you do it.
I was like, so Saturday Night Live is a sketch show that comes on Saturday nights on NBC, right? It was something like that.
Yeah. And then he would go on and he'd be like, and what they do is they give you tickets, but they don't give you tickets to the show for sure. You have to wait in line, and then when you get a ticket, maybe you'll come back. And I was like, maybe don't mention how the whole standby line works, because I was confused about this a few days ago.
Every time, we talked through it, you'd
I
give
was
me
trying
notes.
to punch
yeah.
up his bit.
You'd be like, all right, dude, maybe cut that out, maybe work this out, maybe throw in a little joke, because I had like one little joke in every time.
I
some
just
point.
wasn't sure if it landed.
Maybe it
I was like,
wasn't a
maybe we
joke.
can try an alt joke.
Yep, and we got the occasional. There was a group, two elderly ladies who visited us, who, some people stopped and
Some
had a conversation.
nice, fine Southern gentlemen.
They were some-
gentlewomen.
Yeah, they were recommending us to go see Escape to Margaritaville.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
The Broadway show
They told us that Dallas barbecue is worse
than
than
Austin.
Austin's
Yep.
barbecue. Yeah.
They did. And we were visiting. Yeah, there were like people from France, from Germany, who that was the big. What is SNL? I don't know what that was. What was
That was like a Queen's accent. I think.
Well, no, those people usually. But it was also really funny to say, the people who you'd be like, they're like, well, who's hosting? You'd be like, Donald Glover and Childish Gambino, and some people would go,
Yeah, no one admitted to not knowing it,
Yeah,
but about
it was always that noise.
70% of people
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah, because they would like not know what SNL was, but then they would, once they were told there was a host, they would then pretend to know who Donald Glover is,
Right,
which
yeah.
I don't know that lines up.
Yeah, they'd be like, yeah, it was that same, okay. But then you'd have young people walk by who'd be like, who's hosting? We'd be like, Donald Glover. They'd be like, dang, that's sick. And you'd be like, all right, so you know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
It was not Danny Glover. I made that joke a few times. That's pretty good. Shout out Danny Glover. He's a listener to this, by the way.
Tight.
So yeah, we were in line. A lot of people walking by saying thank you to the sign. Honestly, we kept adding the sign. Less people asked us what was going on, but I was sitting in a way that was open to the sidewalk to where people felt the need to talk to us, including one gentleman who had some theories about
some interesting things about how only rich, white, educated men can make movies anymore. And all this stuff. The thing is, people, you need to know that Dylan is kind of like a small child where I had to keep advising him to try to avoid speaking with strangers because he would talk to any lunatic that went by, and then we'd be about 7 minutes into a conversation that I desperately wanted out of.
And to make it worse, we would always be in the middle of a game of Heads Up, and it was always your turn.
It was always my turn, and they would come by. It made me so mad.
Yeah.
Can we give a shout out to something very important that we haven't discussed yet?
Oh, I think
Delise 48.
Yes, I knew you'd do it. Okay,
Is
so
it
tell us.
time for that?
I want you to talk to us about it. Basically, I want the character arc of Delise 48 because we got there at 9 a.m. and we were told, hey, there's a deli across the street, Delise 48. If you're listening, and you're in the New York area, go to Delise 48.
It's the word deli with an S at the end of that
we
word.
think it's
and then
Delis,
48.
right? Or is it Delis 48? We don't know. It doesn't really make sense.
Some of the blog talked about that's a communal discussion between SNL line members.
And man, it was interesting. Talk a little bit about your experience with it, the best and the worst times, because that was our bathroom. We would go there to use the bathroom.
There was a character arc for it for sure. It was a part of our story, which is when I first got there and they're like, oh, you can just go over to this deli. You don't have to buy anything. I was like, amazing. I walk in. It felt bright. It felt vibrant. It felt alive. I just walked straight in, no line to the bathroom.
Yep.
It was clean, took care of my business.
Yep.
As the night went on, Delise 48 became kind of like a friend that you have that you know has a problem they're trying to hide from you,
and
where it got darker.
And it's a friend that you don't want to be around at 3 a.m. on a Friday.
No. Because it got dirtier and dirtier,
Yes.
and the line kept getting longer and longer.
Yep.
Until I think the bottom floor bathroom got so bad and gross from people vomiting in it, because at about 3 a.m. no one else is on that street besides people leaving bars because it's not a residential area.
Yeah.
And someone had vomited in the bathroom, and they just closed the bottom bathroom.
Yep. Gotta do what you gotta do.
Then we had to go upstairs, which was kind of scary because
another-
there was you have some experience with that.
So I went upstairs to use the restroom. You didn't even know there was an upstairs bathroom. I wish I would have saved you on that. But basically, I went upstairs, and you have a large group of men who are sitting around tables, and in the middle of their tables, this is 3 a.m. I needed to use the restroom. Those large Corona bottles were all sitting in the circle of all these small tables. It's kind of like cafe setup, and just a lot of men who are either like just laughing or woozy from just
there
drinking.
were some full on asleep on the table when I went in a little bit later,
and it was like gross smell. Picture light flickering on the TV. This is very important. The movie Suicide Squad was playing, and I thought maybe it was a preview for it, but it was the full movie, and it wasn't on TV. It was a DVD of Suicide Squad. And
I love that.
I went into the bathroom and I was waiting in line, and I was just waiting there. Probably waited 6 minutes, trying to mind my own business. And then the door opens, and the guy in there, he took care of his business, and
yeah, he did.
That was rough for me. So Dellis 48, we bought some waters from there. We made it happen there. So, but it was definitely a companion that was so tough.
When we came back,
Oh yeah.
just skipping ahead because this is related, you come back that night to
Go
get
to
in
the
line
thing,
with your standby tickets to see if you get in, and the first thing I had to do was get off the subway and go back to Deli's 48 to pee, which is the last thing I did while I was in line. So it's kind of bookending the whole trip for me. And we'd spent 22 hours standing out there. It looked like home, kind of, that street did. I saw
really did.
It was like visiting an old friend peeing in the toilet there. Yeah.
So Dulles 48 was a big part of the standby line. If you ever do it, you will become a friend to it, and I'm excited to hear stories moving forward. I guess more from the standby line. I mean, it's kind of like any all-nighter. Unfortunately, it was garbage night, and so that meant all the trash was on the street, and so it was smelly, and then the big trucks came by to pick up the garbage.
Yeah.
That happened, like large, loud bangs every maybe 45 minutes from these trucks. They didn't do it all at once. It was always every 45 minutes.
Some people did manage to still sleep, though.
Yes,
Most people were in like sleeping bags on the ground, except for me and Dylan, I think, really.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep a wink.
No.
Dylan slept a little bit for like 15 minutes here and there.
I was nodding off for like, I would close my eyes for like 15, 20 minutes at a time, maybe about 3 times. But yeah, it was one of those things I had planned to go home and sleep the whole day. So
even though I didn't sleep at all, I will say it all went by a lot quicker than you would probably think for 22
really
hours.
did.
It went by pretty quick. One other thing about the line, if you want to discuss that now, is the professionals.
Yes, that was good. I was about to head that way. Yeah, there were some dudes who were there. I think they were called the line dudes. I don't really.
They were very nice.
They were nice.
They told us all about how this works.
So they were like a group of guys. When we showed up, there was probably like 10 dudes, and they didn't. There was an interesting vibe to them.
They asked who was hosting this week. Was what. Like, I was like, okay, what's going on? They're like in line for this a day early, but they don't know who's hosting.
It was a group of about like 10 people, and they didn't seem any interested.
They're a little older.
Yeah, a little older. Didn't seem very interested in SNL, and we're in line, and I forgot what made me ask them what they were doing or why they like were in line. And then
I think they kind of just offered it up. Like,
they were handing out
you
cards.
asked if they were excited for and they said we're actually not seeing the show, and you're like, what?
So here's what they do is I think they're called the line dudes, the line guys, something like that. I'm gonna promote them. You can use promo code Dylan Berry Network on their website, see if that works. Tweet at them, say the Dylan Berry Network mentioned you. But basically, what you can do is you can pay these guys to stand in line for you at events all across New York City. At Broadway events, there are standby lines, just like we were doing for Jimmy Fallon, for Seth Meyers. I'm pretty sure for Colbert, for SNL. There's standby lines all across the city. And what you can do is you can pay these gentlemen or ladies. We didn't see any ladies. They could have ladies. But you pay them $45 an hour for the first 2 hours. And then I think it's $10 for every half hour after that.
Yeah.
And so these guys were in line for also 22 hours with us. And at 5 a.m., they made the switch with people who paid them.
Yeah, those two people probably paid, I think I did the math, about $1,000
to jump in line. And they were in front of us. Like, these people showed up at 5 a.m. in their PJs.
Yeah, they were very cold because everyone had put on sweaters over the night. They were, like, shivering the whole time.
Yeah, right at about 5 a.m., it got really cold. The breeze picked up. And so, yeah, there were these line guys, and they were very interesting because they weren't there. They would, like, leave for good amounts of time. Like, and they say that's kind of frowned upon.
Yeah.
But we would tag each other out. Like, you would go grab us food, or I'd go grab us food. We'd go on walks just to, not get stir crazy. Those guys were pretty interesting. And then, they just left at 5. Like, it was no big deal. But they're so used to plopping on the ground. Apparently, I heard that one of them got there and then did an Amazon Prime of a sleeping bag to his spot.
Classic.
To his spot.
Yeah.
Crazy. These guys know what they're doing.
We asked them like what the longest they'd ever waited in line for SNL was. They said Harry Styles. They waited for 5 days. Jeez. But apparently he was a real sweetheart and would send food like every day. Like, he had a new single coming out called Kiwi, and he sent kiwi, pizza, fruit plates. You know who didn't send us anything?
This is where we get to it. So this is another thing, is apparently in the standby lines, very, very occasionally.
I want you to tell this how you for sure thought every host just brings out pizza, though.
I didn't say every host. I said Donald Glover would, but Lin-Manuel Miranda came out, brought pizza. Taron Killam, a former cast member, would go and visit the line. I don't know that he'd bring food, but he'd visit the line.
Yeah.
And some very rare hosts would come out and visit the line and give food or snacks or whatever to people in the line. And I kept telling Chris,
Dylan was sure it was going to happen.
Our boy Donald Glover is going to bring us some pizza. And then by the time dinner went by, I was like, bro, he's bringing breakfast sandwiches. Duh. Like, Donald Glover's bringing breakfast sandwiches at 5 a.m. And go ahead, Chris. This is your favorite part.
He didn't.
did
He's
not.
not a man of the people. I
Yeah,
started to
you're
think that maybe none of us were going to get into the show, and that he
Yeah.
wasn't showing his face because he brought like so many people to come see him that like
Yeah.
there weren't going to be any standby tickets, and he was embarrassed to
Yeah.
like get our hopes up.
The mental game right there at the end, I think probably about 4 or 3 a.m., I think is where we're getting a little shaky. We actually got visited by a lady who was taking our picture, and she's like, what spot are you guys? And we're like, 50. And she's like, oh, you'll get in. I work for the show. And we're like, what? And the girl next to us who was a college student at NYU
Taught Dylan a new word.
she's like, that girl was sus. And I was like, she's what? She's like, she's sus. And I'm like, what are you saying? And she's like suspect, like, or like, I'm like, oh, is that a word? And then
Dylan was like, we have cisgendered now. We also have susgendered, I guess. What is this one?
So, yeah, apparently she's very, I don't know about that. But I was like, no, that girl is legit because she asked us, too. She's like, are you guys doing dress or live? So she knew what she was talking about. She said, oh, you'll for sure get in. I work for the show. Then she walked away, and we're like, huh. But then at about, 4 a.m., Chris and I were having the dialogue of, dude, do we go dress or do we go live? Because they say that you have a better chance of going dress rehearsal. But they say if you really are doing it once, go big and go for the live show. Because dress rehearsal, you'll get more sketches, more laughs, maybe more monologue, more time with the host. And so the girl next to us, who was a girl from California who went to NYU, because Donald Glover went to NYU. Like, she was a big Donald Glover fan.
Yeah.
And she said she was going dress, but you and I were talking, like, do we go dress? Do we go live? Because this is a big risk. We were going to stand in line for 22 hours, try to go live, and then realize maybe the door's going to shut on our face. It was tough,
Yeah,
but we
and
finally landed
live.
on going live.
Which was hard because Dylan was like, oh, I could just do this again sometime. But I was like, I'm waiting in line this one time, and I'm never doing this again. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. It went by quickly, but sleeping on the street again or trying to sleep does not.
Yeah, I would do it again for all of my followers out there or listeners who would do it with me.
Little desperate,
tweet,
offering to
tweet
hang
at
out
me,
with his fans.
Tweet at me. I will sit with my fans. We could record one of these there live. Actually, Chris and I have a recording from the standby line, and actually, I'm gonna play it for us right now. This was a time in line where we were getting a little kooky, a little silly. I want you guys to listen in, and then we're actually going to get back. Once we get back from
We're
this,
gonna be back at nighttime now.
no, yeah. Once we get back from this, we will from listening to this voice memo, whatever voice recording. Then we're gonna talk about the actual live show. So take a listen.
Honestly, what?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dylan Berry Network. This episode is called the SNL Standby Line, and I'm your host Dylan Berry here on the show. I'm here with none other movie Wes Anderson extraordinaire, SNL extraordinaire. He's from Williamsburg currently, but before he was from Arkansas, and so he's here. And everyone, please give it up for Chris Tedeschi.
What I think's like really strange about your guys' fearless leader, Dylan Berry, is I just found out he didn't even get in this line to watch SNL. He just wants a free slice of pizza. And they're not even handing out pizza. That's not a thing that happens at every show. But Dylan is so certain that if he stood in this line for like 12 hours, he'd get pizza. So far, no pizza. He's also going to have to watch SNL probably tomorrow night, which he hates.
Yeah, I can confirm all of that is true. But yeah, we're here. I believe it's hour 11 of being here, and we have 11 hours left, right at the halfway point. Man, so many things. We got here at 9 a.m. We're right here on 48th Street, right in the heart of Manhattan, right next to Rockefeller Center, 30 Rock, where SNL is filmed, and they have the standby line. This is where people can line up, and they release tickets on Saturday morning at 7 a.m. for everyone in line and in order, and everyone has a choice of you can either ask to go to dress rehearsal or go to the live show. And so we are currently in line, and basically what we're hoping is to get any of those leftover seats that they have, because the tickets have been distributed, but they want to make sure they got a packed house tonight and an excited crowd. And so this standby line gets filled up every Saturday, and Chris and I are here now. We got a big decision ahead of us. You know, do we want to do dress rehearsal or live? Dress rehearsal, more gags, more jokes, longer. But it's not the live show, okay? And so, Chris, what are your thoughts being here? What do you think?
What I think's pretty crazy about your guys' host, Dylan Barry, is he told me earlier that the reason he doesn't want to go to the dress rehearsal is because he heard that they are nude in the live rehearsal. Your host is a pervert, and like he thinks he's getting like a free slice of pizza and maybe like a nude show. So that I don't know about this guy.
So I can confirm that that's not true. Did you say they're nude during dress rehearsal?
No, they're clothed during dress rehearsal.
No. Okay, so I would like to see the live taping because it is Saturday Night Live from New York. We're here. Might as well make it happen. The guest tonight is Donald Glover. A musical guest also who came along is Childish Gambino, which is very exciting. Not Danny Glover. I was actually confused about Danny Glover. I'm a big fan of Angels in the Outfield. All of his work there. His role in Shooter was phenomenal. Danny Glover. His role in The Royal Tenenbaums was subpar, but that movie was too. So, what are you going to do? But yeah, we've had a lot of experience today. We're on the sidewalks. We're behind barricades here. And so many, we're in a touristy part of the area. And so, Chris, will you enlighten my viewers? Maybe not bag me this time, because every time you've been given the mic, you've, so far said some bad things about me. I want to give me your experience about your encounters with the tourists today.
Yeah, like the crazy things about the tourists is as soon as the sun went down, Dylan told me that it was spooky out and that he was a little scared and that he wished he brought his blankie and that he wanted to call his mommy. But it's been kind of fun, seeing how he is like after nighttime because he's kind of like a little child, just afraid of everything. Like tourists have just been asking him nice, questions, and he's been yelling "stranger danger." So I just don't really know about this guy. I'm thinking about leaving the line, to be honest.
Well, I can confirm out of all that the sun has gone down. It is nighttime. But before there were lots of tourists walking up and down the sidewalk, and they were asking, hey, what is SNL? And we're like, Saturday Night Live. It's a comedy sketch show on NBC. It's been on for about 40 plus years, and they're like, oh, very cool, you stay here all night? And we're like, yeah, that's crazy you change your accent. And so it just constantly, and then we have a little sign out, so a tiny little whiteboard, maybe 6 inches by 12. People keep looking at it and walking by going, oh, because we got about maybe 150 people lined up right now. We're around the 50 area. But yeah, we got a lot of people lined up and a lot of people walking by. We're in a very foot traffic heavy area, and so pretty crazy. So Chris, what I want to transition now to is how do you feel like we've done of passing the time? And it's been 11 hours, dude. We've been here for 11 hours. How does that feel?
Yeah, so I can definitely answer that question. My favorite interaction that Dylan had with the tourist was when this woman came up whose native language was Spanish. She started speaking Spanish to Dylan, and he said, no hablo inglés, which, if you don't know any Spanish, means that Dylan can't speak English. So she continued to speak to Dylan in Spanish, and he just looked like a big old idiot.
So again, I can absolutely confirm that is actually true. This lady was up to me. Shout out to Mr. Andrew Borba, Desert Ridge High School, who is out, on the marches right now. But yeah, man, my Spanish failed me there. My 4 years of Spanish in high school at Arizona Public Schools failed me. As a tourist came by, spoke Spanish. I, was saying no sé and sí and gracias and, soy guapo, which means I'm handsome and I'm ready for TV. She knew no English. This wasn't like a lady who knew a little bit English. So I did really lean on my Spanish, and I said no hablo inglés, which, means I don't speak English. Which then she went on to speak to me in Spanish. This is just me retelling Chris' story. So yeah, a lot of tourists. Again, we're back on the tourists. But Chris, what have we done to pass the time here? How have we not gone crazy? We haven't taken naps. We've had a meal. Along with some coffee and a little bit here and there. We've had some great hand moisturizer from your sponsor today. Chris, tell us, how have we passed the time?
That was actually part of his standard routine.
So mostly what we've done to pass the time is we've played this movie trivia game where I've gotten basically all of the answers correct every time because I'm a film master. There was this one time that Dylan was making these like weird faces at these passerbys, and they just kind of laughed at him, and it hurt his feelings, and he cried a little bit. So that was pretty funny.
All right. What I can confirm about Chris is that we are here, and we were playing a game, and it was called Heads Up. Ellen DeGeneres created this game on the apps in the App Store. Great way to pass the time. I actually hear a group behind us playing it right now. You hear that? We should get a game in a second. We were playing Heads Up, and we were trying to do the movie category. We got a record of 10. Oh my gosh, I see a YouTube vlogger right now. He is vlogging away. He's got... Yo, that dude's vlogging. Anyways.
He has upwards of 10 followers, at least.
Yeah, I don't know. But he's got a pretty nice setup there. Good rig going. Anyways, yeah, we played that to pass the time. We've chatted. We have had some nice people. A guy named Tim from Boston who really was excited to see Childish Gambino. I've treated him really well. Treated everyone really well. I haven't been to... Oh, yeah. Cool. SNL is going to be one building over. Yeah, thank you. We're going to wait. Tomorrow morning they release tickets. We're going to get those tickets and come back at night, and maybe we're in or maybe we're not. So it's a big waiting game. There's some passerbys. Chris, what do you think of that interaction?
I think that earlier today, Dylan talked to this man who was possibly homeless, and he had some interesting ideas about fame and how basically life works. You know, this guy he went to college with some big names, a little bit of Martin Scorsese. And, he said Martin Scorsese pulled himself up by his bootstraps, made himself this big movie star and a movie maker. You can't do that now. He says you got to be a rich elite. And I don't really know why he felt like he could talk to Dylan about this, but the two of them had a conversation for about, like, a good hour. And I started to have some ideas, maybe this guy's got a point. You know, what's to separate me being out here on the line from being out there in the studio? Back to you.
Here's what I'll say is that, we have had a lot of characters maybe come by. We had some old ladies who came by, elder ladies, if you will, came by.
I mean, I was expecting some characters at SNL, but this is Looney Tunes.
Hey. Yeah, so a few characters, came out, and, when you're on the streets of New York, you're going to see that. And Chris and I were playing a friendly game of Heads Up, and, a man approached us and gave his thoughts on life and movies and all this stuff. And, he had some hot takes, to say the least. Chris, now, can we talk a little bit about the food, drink, bathroom situation that we got going? Because a lot of people are like, whoa, you're standing in line for 24 hours. Are you allowed to get up? Are you allowed to go to the bathroom? What's that experience been like, Chris?
Well, we started off the day with I had a kind breakfast bar. Dylan did not partake in that. He doesn't like natural foods. So he insisted later that we get food from our sponsor, Chick-fil-A, #blessed. We both had some crunchy nugs and some fries and Dr. Pepper. Before that, we did have iced coffees because, you gotta. But since then, we've been going across the street to this place called Deli's 48. And we've pretty much just been, using their bathroom. We bought one bottle of water each earlier, but they haven't stopped us yet. So shout out to them.
Yeah, so we can leave the line a little bit. We don't for long. There's some people who have left the line for a long time. But, it's pretty crazy, man. There's some people who were here. We got here at 9 a.m. on Friday. People had been here since maybe Thursday morning. Chris.
Speaking of food, when do you think your pizza dinner hand-delivered by Donald Glover is going to be here?
Okay, to go along with that, so in the past, some SNL casts and hosts have delivered food to the standby line because they honor and say, wow, that's awesome. Lin-Manuel Miranda is a great example. You can YouTube. He brought pizza to people. And Chris doesn't believe that Donald Glover would do that. And I think Donald Glover is going to bring food. It could be a breakfast sandwich early in the morning tomorrow. It could be pizza. But, man, he had so many fans come out and be here for him. Chris, can you give me a little bit of your reaction to how many people showed up today? Talk to me about walking up to see the line and what you thought and then what actually happened, and now where we are right now.
Yeah, I just don't think Donald Glover's a man of the people. I think he's kind of selfish. There's upwards of probably, I'd say, 150, 200 people. I really have no idea. I can't see the end of the line. Will Ferrell apparently only had about 50 people in line to see him, and he probably bought them something. Donnie G is just leaving us out here to dry. But yeah, I mean, maybe he'll come through. There's a lot of people here. There have been people here probably since like Thursday, like night. I feel like looked like people were sleeping when we got here.
Now it is 8:23 currently, and we have until 7 a.m. until they hand us tickets. And at that point, I will head home to rest, and so will Chris, and then we will meet back here 10:45 to line up again in the number of the tickets that they gave us, and we will go through and see if they have room for us. So actually, in sitting in the standby line doesn't mean we have tickets. So we will continue to grind, continue to have hope. Again, like I think a lot of people, especially behind us, are wrestling with, do I ask for live and take the risk that I might not get it, or do I say I want to go to dress rehearsal, which is more and more likely to get in, but you actually don't see the live show. You see a lot more sketches, you see a lot more material, some gets cut for time. All in all, it's not the actual live show. And Chris has stated many times today, this is the only time he'll ever do this line. He doesn't think he'll do it again. Maybe, you know, if there's a right stars aligning of hosts, and, you know, maybe you have another friend who wants to make this happen, we'll do it. That goes out to all the people in Dillberry Nation. I really think this is a good experience to have. Chris, what do you think is going to be key in this final stretch of sitting on this sidewalk through the late night hours of New York City? Who knows what kind of characters we could be visited with? What's going to be clutch here going forward through the night to make it 7 a.m.?
Yeah, I think this is where we're really going to find out what this is going to be all about at night. We've already met interesting characters in the day. We're probably going to meet some more at night. Maybe sleep in shifts. I haven't really thought about it too much. I do think that, like, regardless of if we see the show or not, we're probably going to be either closer friends or not friends any longer by the end of it. There will be, like, a dramatic shift in the scale, one way or the other.
I think that's fair to say. So this is Dylan Berry that we're checking in right now. I'm going to send you over to Dylan in the future, who will give you more on this SNL standby line on May 4th, 2018. Thanks so much. Over to you, Dylan. Hey, thanks so much, Dylan of the past. Guys, that was a little bit of us. I know it kind of went through a lot of the stuff we already just went through.
But it was a fun time.
It was a fun time.
And I know what you're all probably wondering.
Yeah. Go ahead.
We chose live. How are you guys ever going to know if they were clothed or nude in the dress rehearsal? Well, luckily we ran into a friend coming out of dress who confirmed that they do wear clothes in dress
they
rehearsal.
They were dressed.
Yeah.
Classic. I also do want to mention that the long pauses in between us talking was me handing my phone over to Chris.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny. But, that was a little bit of us pretty cuckoo in line there. But anyways, 7 a.m. comes around. Actually, 6 a.m. Let's talk about right then. We are there. Everyone's kind of standing up, moving a little bit.
This is actually when you got most of your sleeping done, really, though.
You
kept
did.
falling asleep from 6 to 7, and I would wake you up when we would move a little bit.
Yeah, we were moving a bit. I was able to crash a little bit, but then we see the pages come out with the tickets and with the clipboard, and they start to make their way through. And honestly, it was...
Did you know it's hard to become an NBC page?
I've heard that it's
I looked into it when I moved. You have to have like a 3.8 GPA to even apply.
Yeah, I heard you got to be... And it's probably better to know someone. All that stuff. But so tickets started getting handed out maybe around 7. They say 7. It was probably about 7:05, 7:10.
Yeah.
It was so interesting, though, because the street was still pretty dead. It was 7 a.m. on a Saturday. And right when someone gets their tickets, it seemed like a lot of people started walking up the street. And no joke, I got the sense of it felt like someone had just finished a marathon and they just done the walking part. And, you know, they put their hands up in the air and they're just like, we did it. We did it. And they had their tickets in hand, and these two guys were in the front. They had a blog going, an hour long, like hour by hour blog of the night.
Yeah. And
then you just started seeing people walk by us with their ticket in hands, so happy, like cry. It looked truly like the finish line at the end of a marathon, which is what. And it was so funny that, like, Like that's what we got to.
Yeah.
And the pages slowly start moving to us.
And unfortunately, I had to pee worse than I ever
you
have in my
did.
entire life.
Yeah.
I was literally doing like the bouncing on my
Yeah.
heels kind of thing. And I couldn't get out of line at this point because I
No.
might not be back
It
before
was
it
not
got
worth
to
the
me.
risk.
Yeah.
And then you said to me, you're like, hey, dude, right when we get our things, I'm just going to leave. So
Yeah, I was
don't.
like, bye, Dylan. Bye, Tim. I am heading to a bathroom as
you
soon
went
as we
and-
get
And
it.
you went and saw Dallas again,
Yeah.
48.
And I was true to my word. I grabbed my ticket and I ran.
Yeah, you did. And so, but they get to us. They're probably like 3 people away, and we're kind of listening. And we're honestly, I don't feel like we made a decision yet. I was waiting for you. I told you, dude, if you wanted to go dress, you can go dress, but I have to go live. Like, I have to. We're taking the risk. And I convinced Tim behind us. Tim's like, yeah, we're going dress. And I was like, but Tim, and I was like, dude, this is Saturday Night Live. You've been watching this for years. And his girlfriend looked at me. She's like, don't inspire him. Don't change his mind.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh man, okay, they're going dress. And so, but they were behind us, really didn't matter. The girl in front of us, again, we knew she was going dress. They get to us and we're like, hey, how many people in line are we? And they're like, it's even, it's 27-27. And we're like, holy cow.
Yeah.
That's
I don't think
amazing
Dylan was
odds.
really expecting that, too.
No.
Yeah.
No, and I don't know that that's normal. But again, these people I think were here for Donald Glover, maybe not as much SNL. And so we said, hey, we're gonna do live. And we decided to do live, and yeah, they handed us our ticket. They spelled your name wrong on your ticket.
They did.
It was, and we got it, and it was like, dude, peace out. And you went to the bathroom. I headed to Grand Central. I actually had to run, and I was carrying the lawn chairs. They didn't have bags. I had to run to catch like a train, otherwise I would have to wait an extra 30 minutes. So I started sprinting, but I got a burst of energy from getting the tickets of like, shoot, we got it.
I was dead.
Oh man, I got my burst of energy. I was sitting on the Metro North back, and I watched an episode of Atlanta. I was waking up. I thought I'd crash, but the sun was on my face too, and I was just like chilling. And then I got home to blacked out. I pre blacked out my room, and then I had some essential oils going because Liz Barton hooked me up. Liz
Nice.
Barton, shout out. I had some ones that would keep me asleep and make me feel relaxed. Went to bed at 9 a.m. Woke up at about 5 for an hour and 8, and then went back to sleep at 6. Woke up at 8:30 and came to New York. What did you do on the day leading up to? Because we got standby tickets. That does not mean we had tickets.
It doesn't.
It does not. We
I
had
do feel
number
like
27.
We forgot one key piece of info though,
What?
which was our the people that paid for those people to stand in line.
Gosh, that was a big deal. Yeah.
The guy forgot his ID.
Yeah,
I had
that's
never
important.
seen a more panicked person in my life than him thinking he just paid $1,000
Yeah.
and not have his ID,
Yeah.
which you have to get the tickets. He found like a student ID, I think, and it was
Yeah.
fine. But yeah, when I got home at about like 8:30, I guess.
Yeah.
I climbed up into my bed, and my girlfriend was like, "Tell me what it was like." And I immediately was like, I'll tell you after I wake up. I need sleep, and passed out. I then woke up at like 1 o'clock to go to work for the day.
Crazy.
I went to work, and then I headed to SNL basically right after work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to sleep, and then I drove back in. I think I left about 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And then we got there around 10. We hopped in line, and there we saw Tim, the guy behind us.
Yeah.
We're like, dude, what are you doing here? Because dress rehearsal was at 5:30 if you
Yeah.
wanted to go. I was like, dude, what are you doing? I thought you guys went dress. He's like, nah, man, we went live. I was like, yeah. Gave this dude a big hug. Well, maybe a big hug, maybe a big high five. I was excited to see him, but we're in the building. It's 10 o'clock. We're in line. We're at number 27. I don't know that it was true 27. It felt like there was less than 26 people ahead of us.
Yeah, that might have been true. And it was so nerve-wracking because we'd been told that you might get called down a hallway.
Yep.
You might get called down another hallway. You might make it through all these things, but until your butt is literally in a seat, nothing's guaranteed.
Yep.
And we had read on the blogs that sometimes they brought 30 people back if they thought they could fit 30, and then, some of those don't get sent.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, we feel pretty good, but they only called like the first 10 people.
Yeah.
So we were like, oh, we might not make it out of this line.
Yeah.
But I think after a few groups, we got through the first door.
We did. And another note before that is it was hilarious to see everyone in line again, because at night and the morning before, everyone was in their PJs or looked like awful,
we looked gross.
tired.
We've been sitting there.
Everyone looked smelly and stuff. But then when you show up for SNL, everyone had their hair done.
Yeah,
They
it
looked
was like
dresses.
the end of summer camp when they have like a formal
Yes.
night, like a banquet, and everyone
yeah.
was in their nicest form.
Absolutely. It was
Yeah.
totally like that. And so, so we go through security. We make it. We go and we wait in this waiting area. Then we go up an elevator. It was an awesome moment we had. Everyone was very serious and tense because you don't know. There was a guy who was 10 people behind us ish, and he's like, "Oh, I was here 2 weeks ago for the John Mulaney episode, and they closed the door when I was 10 people away from going in the studio." And I was like, "Bro, you can't tell us that right now. We don't need that negativity." Everyone was pretty tense. Like, no one was kind of making jokes. I kept saying, "Dude, I'm all right."
When the elevator doors closed, though, all of us just instantly started dancing and screaming.
Us and like we knew Tim and his girlfriend, but there were other people in the elevator who were just dancing with us, going crazy.
It was one of those childlike moments of just pure joy that I felt in a long time.
Because again, like, these people were all just as crazy as us who desperately wanted to see SNL. Then elevator doors open and we're just so chill. We walk out. We go down the long hallway with all the legendary pictures on the side,
which was like amazing.
Yeah,
I was kind of hoping that we could go through that slower because we were going pretty quickly. Luckily, when we came
back,
spoiler alert, we did get in.
When
we came back, we got to walk through that hall a little slower, and there were just pictures of all of the cast.
We did
from all time.
Yeah, but honestly though, I still, as we kept walking down the hall, and you could see the famous backdrop where the band was, you could see it, and we're like, in my head was like, we're not in yet. We're not
we had
in.
a ways to go.
And even we get into the room, and I look over, I see a bunch of empty seats, and I go, I'm pretty sure we're still in because there weren't that many people ahead of us. We got a seat. Not amazing seats, but I would say there wasn't one. I don't think there was one amazing seat in the house because and this is more getting into the show.
I would say our section was in the corner and every other section was in front of all the stages.
Yeah.
But we got to see some cool stuff that we'll get to later that those people in the front didn't get to see.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got there. We sat down. We had made it. We were high-fiving each other, like, again, total strangers, just super excited.
We were so close with Tim and his girlfriend at this point, though, that, like, they got up and she, like, handed me her purse to sit down. Like, we were, like, a little family.
That was awesome. Yeah. They're like our parents.
I could have totally stolen everything she had.
Yes. And, I remember, like, I was, like, leaning on Tim. Like, I was, like, dying because it was just so amazing.
Dylan got really excited and goofy the whole way up.
Oh, my gosh. The whole way up. Yeah, I just kept saying, yo, I'm fine. Chill.
I just kept being like, this could go.
Yeah.
And Dylan was like, shut up.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And then finally we're there, and like we're in Studio 8H, right? Isn't that it?
Yeah.
We're there. You see this legendary set. We saw it right when we went in, but again, we were kind of off in a kind of a little corner.
What did you think about, like, because you kind of just imagine, or maybe you've seen like clips, was it smaller than you thought it was? It was a little smaller than I thought it was.
Yeah, I thought, well, because I'd been to Jimmy Fallon before, which we also did a few weeks ago, which is cool that we were back in NBC Studios. But I felt like it wouldn't be that big, and it was probably about right what I thought it was.
Yeah.
What blew me away was how they used the studio, because cameras were literally facing in any direction 360 degrees.
Can we talk about the cold open a little?
Yeah,
I feel like that was one of the best.
Well, let's go into Michael Che walks out.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Totally. We're all kind of sitting there, and the music's playing, and the band is playing live, and it's awesome. And then they introduce Michael Che, Weekend Update co-host and co-head writer of SNL. He walks out, and he does kind of a little, like 5 minute.
It was like warm-up, but not cheesy, like when you go see a talk show, getting it, because everyone was already so hyped.
Yeah.
And, like, he didn't have to do the, like, making the crowd laugh. He kind of just talked and said some funny things and talked about how it worked in, like, a cool way.
He had that funny bit about Colin Jost went to Harvard, and Michael's like, I didn't go to school, but him and I have the same job.
Yeah. So it was just, like, kind of like a little insider, like, baseball. He was talking with everyone, and it was neat.
And then he introduced Keenan, who came out with
Melissa, Heidi, and Cecily, I believe.
Yeah, they came out and they sang a song. The song has been in my head, but I don't have a name for it.
It's
like "We're Glad You Came."
Yeah, that's
kind of thing.
It's an old, like, kind of soul song, just about like being happy the person's there. So it was just a straightforward, like, get hyped song, kind of like the Roots play a little bit before Fallon. It was just that, and it worked. I was kind of bobbing my head and stuff.
It was. And it was like Keenan, like, out there. It was like the same guy who sings "What's Up with That," and like he was
selling it.
Yeah, he was selling. He was like actually a good singer, and it was fun. But one crazy thing that didn't happen all night is there was no standing ovation. Like, no one stood up to clap, or maybe once. But I thought that would happen at least one point in the night, and it didn't.
Yeah, I think it's just because like SNL doesn't show the crowd as much
No,
or
it
whatever,
doesn't, yeah.
and like I feel like you can't be even noticing them when you're performing down there.
That's right. Yeah.
There's so much going on. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
and then we kind of get started, but they don't really like say, "Hey guys, we're gonna get started in just a minute." Like we're just sitting there, and all of a sudden we see Alec Baldwin walk out. We see like Ben Stiller walk out. We see these sets that are being built and moved around. They had a bunch of these kind of big wall things that would just move, and they would be the sets. But we slowly just watched people come out one by one, and then all of a sudden we hear it's like it gets quiet, and someone goes 5, 4.
Yeah.
We're like, wait, we're start. It was kind of like abrupt.
It was. Everything was, which is kind of cool because I'd always wondered sometimes when you watch SNL, you hear like laughter going into the sketch and you're like, what just happened? You know, and that's kind of just carryover from something live.
Right.
And it makes it feel more warm when you're watching it.
Totally.
But like, I think usually I'm not a huge fan of the cold opens, to be honest. Like, they're just kind of like, you know what you're going to get or whatever. Alec Baldwin's
And lately,
Trump is
yeah.
not my favorite
Right.
and everything. But that was one of the coolest things to see live because there were so many celebrity guests and there were like 5 or 6 different little sets.
Yeah.
So when you saw like Trump, Baldwin calling his doctor, played by Martin Short, which was
Martin Short
amazing
was there,
seeing
yeah.
such a huge legend. Like, he's sitting right next to him, and then there's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
another one and another one. So it was just kind of neat seeing it laid out specifically for that part because they were like 5 different sets being used at once.
Yeah. It was, again, that was the big thing. As someone who loves the production side of things, it was so cool to see, even after every sketch, like right when it goes to black, let's say, like 15 guys rushed the set to break
sure.
it down, and that was so cool. And in the cold open, you saw like after Martin Short's part, if you watch the cold open, it's on YouTube. After his part, like you don't see it on camera, but he just runs out of there, and someone else jumps in for their next scene.
Yep.
And it was Ben Stiller, Scarlett Johansson, and Jimmy Fallon were there, which was crazy. And then the big reveal, which was nuts, and that's kind of was the big buzz around the show was when Alec Baldwin says, "Get Stormy Daniels on the phone."
Yeah, basically up until this point, he'd said like get Jared and Ivanka, and that's you know Fallon and Scarlett Johansson. He says get Stormy Daniels. Neither of us had seen her on the set, so we were expecting like I don't know one of the cast member to be playing her or another celebrity. But no, it was literally Stormy Daniels.
And she was right in front of us. Like we couldn't see her, but where she was sitting was like 10 feet from us.
One of the coolest things that I think I saw from like a cultural standpoint of like history that I might tell someone years down the line has to do with Stormy Daniels being there, and I'll talk about that when we get into Weekend Update.
Yes.
But it was just so cool that she was actually there. It was just it surprised me.
Yeah, it surprised everybody because you just didn't expect it, and then it was a funny bit that was crazy. And I heard someone say to me the other day, they're like, "Dude, you were at SNL?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Wow, man, they went for it this week. They actually brought her on the show." I'm like, "Yeah, it was crazy," and it felt like you said, it felt like history, and that's kind of this is an interesting little chapter. But yeah, so the cold open was pretty phenomenal in terms of a lot of stars, a lot of celebrities, and then we go into the monologue. Donald Glover comes out, super awesome, and he does his SNL bit of wanting to be on the audition. And actually, if you watch, at one point he goes over to Kyle Mooney, the guy with the skateboard and the long curly hair, and if you look up, you can see me in a hat and a gray sweater, and Chris is next to me on my left. And so,
True, I was wearing a flannel.
Yeah,
and no hat.
So we were on SNL pretty much. So
sure, we were.
The monologue was pretty good. Like that was another funny thing is I don't feel like I truly watched the show because we were watching all the moving parts happen.
Yeah, it wasn't like watching a comedy show. Like I wasn't like thinking in my head like, oh, is this funny? Like I wasn't having a good time. It's just I wasn't even thinking about funniness. I was just so engaged with watching it happen that like I watched it later the next day and I was like, oh, this was a very funny episode from the season. Whereas when I was there, I was like, this is just so cool.
Yeah, and I think right after the monologue, you don't have anything to say about that. I mean, it's good. It was a good monologue.
I think we were both curious to see what he was gonna do. He's had a stand-up special before, but that was just kind of a one and done thing, and like it wasn't like one of his most hailed parts of his career. Yeah. So like he went with the song. Yeah. Like a song monologue, which was actually one of the better song monologues for sure. Because usually those are kind of a crutch. Yeah. But since he's actually a singer and like it was funny, I was a fan.
And then so I believe right after that went into Friendos. it might
we
have
had a commercial break and then
commercial break, and then was it the courtroom scene?
yeah, that was the first scene.
Courtroom, Jurassic Park. That's pretty funny. That was actually like the farthest sketch that was from us, and you could kind of see where it was. But like, man, if you drew a rectangle and the rectangle is the set, they literally used every like wall of that rectangle as their backdrops to all their sets. So some of them were right in front of us, but some of them were across the room from us.
For sure.
And that was starting one was across the room from us, and we all had monitors we could watch it on. And I think honestly most people were using that anyway because it's still more intimate.
I was like forcing myself every time I caught myself looking at the monologue to like look at just the people and what was happening. Like I would like catch myself like during the musical performance and be like, just look at Donald Glover like from far away and see what that's like.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, that was a good sketch. That was fun, clever. And then I think then it was Friendos was right after that. But this was a fun one for me because we were just talking about it earlier today. Like it's been a while since I've watched SNL with someone, and so to be in a room full of people who are locked in, and that Friendos comes on, which if you haven't seen it, pause this, go watch it right now. Like I was losing my mind. It was so funny because everyone was laughing along. You couldn't hear what they were saying afterwards. And like a lot of Keenan's like Lambo, that would cause you to miss like what they were saying right after. And it was just so funny.
it was
I was really happy with both of the digital shorts that were
for sure.
that played. Yeah. Anything on Friendos?
No, it was great. All the impressions were like spot on. It
So
felt
good.
like Migos,
Yeah.
but in therapy.
Yeah. Therapy.
Cecily Strong also was just incredible acting, and it like played it so straight, and it was
She did.
like it sold it so much.
Yep. Yeah. She was super involved like the whole night.
My favorite part that gets me laughing every time is like when they start rapping at the end and they say my therapist is looking hot, looking sexy, and then she cuts them off, but like it just builds so much to that and then just cuts.
Yeah.
That
was a good bit. And there was a bunch of other ones. I mean, the Kanye place was really hilarious. We said it when we were in line. We're like, they have to do something with this whole Kanye tweet storm. They have to. And I thought they did a pretty great job, especially including this phenomenon, A Quiet Place, and into a Kanye place.
For sure.
Pretty hilarious. Some other good sketches. The
Raspberry. I feel
this was
like
cool. This is a good story.
this was the coolest one seeing live.
Because that was right in front of us.
It happened right in front of us. We were over in that corner, and some woman just kind of quietly like was like we love you, Donald, and he like looked over and like pointed at our section, and it was just this really neat little interaction because at that point like someone was kind of coaching him, like talking about where to hit the blocks on the sketch and everything. And then right before the sketch started, when they're going 4, 3, 2, at like 1, he like looked over and did like a really cool like raising his eyebrows to us as he walked through the door.
Totally.
Yeah, such a cool guy.
Very cool. Yeah, and that was like a really funny sketch live. Actually, when I rewatched it, it wasn't as funny as when I saw it live. I don't know.
Really? I loved it.
That was one that was, but it's such a funny, ridiculous. I love it when they just go ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
Like, so there was that one. I loved the bed scene.
That was an interesting one to see like live because it's just a bed in the middle of
And
this
it was
huge
right
studio.
where they do the monologue and where they do Weekend Update. Like you would not imagine those are the same exact spots. But they are. That one was super funny. I love that girl.
And it was cool seeing like the end of that sketch because they just hop out like when it was over after they call cut, they just hop out of the bed and like gave like a slight smile, like good job, and then just ran in opposite directions to like get ready for the next.
Yeah, there was always a lady who would right when a scene ends would go grab Donald Glover's hands and run him to the back of the room.
Yeah, because he was in like every sketch of the night, and usually there's like a few sketches that like the hosts aren't in for whatever reason, whether it's just cost, but like they made sure to like have him in every sketch.
Yeah, and that was good. There was the Black Star Wars one was funny. And then we're not in order, but there was the Black Star Wars one.
That was cool seeing that in front of the green screen.
Yeah,
like
the way they used it.
Where the guests were sitting was just like a green screen that we got to see kind of how
crazy
that
cool special effects there, which you don't really think about SNL having like cool special effects, but they
sure.
did. What was some other ones before getting to Weekend Update? We can go to Weekend Update. This one was kind of crazy the way they were setting up and building the set because they almost didn't get it off, and you can see if you go and watch Weekend Update, you can see Colin and Michael Che laughing at the beginning of it because They barely, it was like 3, 2, and they were still sliding into their seats or sitting down when the cameras go on. And yeah, it was wild. They told a bunch of jokes. You had Pete Davidson. You had.
It was. Can we talk about Pete Davidson a little? Like, I've always like really liked him on Weekend Update. He at first I was hoping he was gonna be like the new Sandler almost, like when Sandler was like cool on SNL and everything. But like it was interesting watching him like walking around before he went on, because it was kind of like watching an athlete get like
totally
hyped to perform, but he's very like slow moving, so it was like not really an athlete, but he was kind of stretching and like
pacing
looking
a
around.
little bit,
It almost seemed like he had an assistant that was there to like basically like cheer him on, because
Yeah.
I know he's like a little bit of like a depressive a bit. And it was less like when they were with Donald Glover, like you need to hit all these spots. It was more like kind of patting him on the head, like you got this. And then like he goes on, and it was just like really funny seeing him get then yanked off, because that's how when they like roll out of the frame, they're actually getting pulled by like an assistant. But I mentioned that historic moment. I felt like there was like this big thing that I got to see was when they're making jokes kind of at Stormy Daniels' expense a little bit, or just about the situation. I look in the back and I see Stormy Daniels standing right next to Martin Short, one of the most like famous legendary comedians of all time, and like they're making a joke like, I wonder how they arrived at $130,000. That's such a weird, and I just see her mouthing the words to him like, actually, I'm seeing her explain like all the intricacies of what's going on here. She's like, that's true, or that's blah blah blah, like next to like this comedy legend, this like porn star that's embattled in this like legal thing with the president of the United States. It was just crazy to see happen in front of me.
And you could see, I don't know if you noticed, but her lawyer, the one who's been on 60 Minutes and all those, he was back there too, right next to her.
And they had a bit about him making fun of him too, I think.
Like, he was speechless, but then he went on to do 12 different shows. No, that was a really cool thing to kind of see that come together. Those and Michael Che and Colin Jost will be doing the Emmys, right? They'll be hosting the Emmys, and that'll be fun. That'll be cool. Those are good Weekend Update dudes. I think at first, I don't know that I loved them, but I mean, I think they're great. I love what they're doing, man. And then Childish Gambino, the musical performances.
They had cool, like important like icons in like young black culture right now. Like to introduce him, they had like Zoe Kravitz come out, who's like one of the coolest people. Want to talk about that first performance? It
was Saturday.
She like introduces him and then like seamlessly walks in to be a part of the set piece. We have all these people like celebrating kind of like a block party type thing going on for Mimi's 90th birthday. And he sings. We didn't know what to expect from the music because it's been a while since that last album came out. All of his music's been so different. We'd heard rumors of like a new song. We get 2 new songs. First one's kind of like funk like the last one, but almost poppier and like we both said a Bruno Mars type vibe, but a little more like authentic, I guess.
It didn't feel like super poppy in terms of like catchy and popular, but it seemed like funk and like definitely one to like play at a block party or something like that. I think it fit the setting. And then the second song,
which Daniel Kaluuya comes out.
We'll
talk about him more.
We will talk about him. He walks out, and we're like, I heard a girl say, "Oh my gosh, that's Daniel Kaluuya!" And I look over and I'm like, "Oh, that's Daniel Kaluuya!"
And we'd heard rumors about this song called "This Is America" that apparently like they leaked the title on iTunes. So that's what this song was.
That's what it was, and I don't think we had any idea what we were seeing until really the next like 2 days.
Part of history, I might say, like, because like it starts off as this like cool party song. We just want to party, and everyone's kind of like, but then it goes into like all these real issues,
intense,
and it's
and
like, this
lights.
song is like meaning something. The light show in that song was incredible.
Amazing. And it was just so cool to see him move, and if you see it in context of the music video. Really, really cool.
The music video is like a work of art. But one thing that's cool, I advise everyone to check out the live performance too, was the prism of light at the very end of the song where he just kind of has the spotlight on him and then walks out of the spotlight. That was just like really cool to see.
Mesmerizing. It was so cool. And like you said, I think it was my friend texted me. He was like, "Yo, I think this guy's just getting started," and it's totally true in terms of Donald Glover and Childish Gambino. I know he's got one album left, but like. This guy is just kind of on top of the world, and I think that's why we did see such a large turnout for him, and the ratings apparently for SNL were up. And so, with all of his success with Atlanta, the show would just wrapped its 2nd season. Solo, a Star Wars story. He's gonna be Lando Calrissian. He's gonna be Simba in the new live action Lion King.
It was cool seeing a Lando sketch.
Oh
like,
yeah, they did. We brought it out. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always kind of funny when you see like an actor reprising their role on like SNL, because it's like so much of a smaller budget and like kind of like, oh, do I remember how I do this accent or this like mannerism and all that.
Yeah, and there was really nothing about Atlanta. I mean, he made a little joke at the beginning about Atlanta, but like he has a lot to promote right now in terms of this brand new single which was dropped, Atlanta season finale and I mean Solo. But I think really Solo was the thing.
Atlanta is apparently the most viewed FX show of all
really?
time.
That's
like,
crazy.
I know FX is kind of niche in the shows they have. They have like
Sons of
Louis and
Anarchy.
Legion and Sons of that kind of stuff. But yeah, apparently it has the most viewers.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. So, gosh, any other notes on the show? I mean, it was again like every time we just kind of stopped and just went, "Jeez, we're here. This is crazy."
It was cool seeing like the full goodbyes, because it always cuts out different times when they're saying goodbye on the monologue stage. It was also cool because I was curious how much sound traveled in the studio.
Yeah. And
it was very quiet when they were all on stage about to say goodbye. And when they were counting down, when it got to about 3, 2, this girl almost whispered as if to herself. Like, I don't even think she meant for him to hear it. Just like, thank you, Donald. And he said, just looked over, like, just cool, so cool. It was like, thank you. And when you watched it back, like when the first shot is him whipping his head back to face the camera, and I'm like, oh, I know why he did that. It was because he was being super cool and like being like fly.
Yeah, it was wild. And then, everyone saying goodbye and hugging on the stage was just super cool, and we were just applauding like crazy. And actually, to report back, we got our seats, and there was probably only about 13 to 15, maybe 20 people behind us. So we were safely in terms of seating. Right after that, we all got up and we said goodbye to that studio. They all kind of headed out really quick, and we made our way downstairs. We knew there was an exit where celebrities or the SNL cast walk out and they can take pictures with people. If you go on my Instagram, you can see I got a few pictures with people, D_Barry21. Got a few pictures with some cast members. It's pretty awesome. But really funny moment, Chris. I don't know if you want to share it with the celebrity that I saw in the hallway.
Oh yeah,
give us your perspective, and I'll tell you
your
mine.
Perspective are probably a little different.
Jeez.
So we're walking out, and I just hear Dylan say, "Oh my gosh," and like I'm like, "What?" He says, "That's Daniel Kaluuya," and he's just like leaned over against the wall talking to a few people he knows, and Dylan just starts speed walking towards him. Like, if Dylan was like a more intimidating looking person, like I would have been scared if I was Daniel, because like Dylan literally just starts walking with such purpose, almost running, and I start speed walking too to keep up with Dylan, so it looks like two men are just like charging at him. And then then Dylan gets up there and he says,
I go up to Daniel Kaluuya, who is pretty recognizable.
Yeah, nominated for an Oscar for Get Out, but also in Black Panther.
Black Mirror. And
Dylan says, "Are you Daniel Kaluuya?"
And dude, and if you know this guy, you could Google him, but like you know who he is. And I said, "Are you Daniel Kaluuya?" And he's British, and he's like, "Yeah, what's up, mate?" And but he looked not happy to see me. I was like, "Hi, I'm Dylan."
To be fair, he never usually looks happy.
No.
But I don't think that he was happy that you bothered him and asked if he was Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah, but we talked about this. And anyways, I said I'm Dylan Barry, and I shook his hand. I said I'm Dylan, and I shook his hand, and I walked away, and I was like, oh, yeah. I realized how big of an idiot
I just kind of stood quietly, and he was like, "Thanks, guys," or whatever.
Thanks, guys.
So we both met him, but Dylan was definitely pretty
a little eager,
out there
about
fanboy.
Hey, man, that dude made he was part of the best movie last year. So that happened, and then we went outside pretty quick to stand where all the cast comes out, and they all get in cars and they go off to the after party, but they walk out in between these kind of two barricades underneath this overhang, and they talk to this guy and they say how many people they have with them, and basically they pull up in a black Escalade pulls up and they all jump in it. But while they're waiting, they go and they take pictures with people, but not all the cast. Like I got a picture with Leslie Jones and Kyle Mooney and Chris Redd, but a lot of them came out. Colin Jost we saw, We saw.
I left a little bit.
Yeah,
I didn't stay there very long for
Right.
that. But
Yeah. You had out. I saw Emma Stone came running out, which was random and really
Yeah.
weird. It was like, oh my gosh, it's Emma Stone. And yeah, I was out there. By that time, it's 1:45 a.m. You probably left 1:15.
that was one of the
1:20.
most interesting things to see / talk to you about, though, was I knew that happened. And
Yeah.
there are certain cast members that are definitely like brighter stars right now to the general
Yeah,
public.
Leslie Jones is a big
So
one.
like the first people that come out are Melissa Villaseñor and Heidi, who I'm big fans of both of them. I think they're kind of underutilized.
Yeah, totally.
But people like didn't clap or anything, but they waved at everyone and were very nice. And then people asked for pictures and like
Yeah.
they like went around. They were very gracious. And then
Yeah.
they both go get in separate cars, which they're then just waiting in those cars because I think they kind of put more than one person
Yeah.
in some of the cars. So they got like a nice welcome-ish. Like people knew who they were. Then Leslie Jones comes out, and keep in mind these people are still sitting in cars with the door open where they can hear it, and people start clapping and
Roaring, yeah.
screaming, and I'm like, that's gotta kind of suck a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh,
Then Luke Knoll comes out, who
no one knew he was in the
No,
show
no.
apparently.
and I think
Or kid.
he was in a sketch. I think.
Yeah, he was in one of the
Tonight.
pre-tape things. I think.
Oh,
Wasn't-
really?
No.
He was definitely in the Cavaliers one.
Yeah.
Which we actually didn't ever get to see that, but that one went online of the other Cavaliers.
I'm pretty sure he was in something. Like
Yeah,
so,
I
even
think
if they
so.
just
Oh,
saw
he
that
was
one
in-
episode of SNL
He was in
that
the
night.
Jurassic Park one. He was in the video
Yeah, yeah,
evidence.
yeah.
That's what he was.
So that's gotta kind of suck.
Yeah. Beck Bennett came out. That was super cool. And so that was our SNL experience. And I went home. I got home probably like 2:15. I ate the rest of my pizza, and I had to be at work at 5:30. And
Yeah, it took both of us, I think, days to kind of recover
yeah,
from
we
the
were
lack
just
of
talking
sleep.
about that too. Yeah, it was probably Tuesday that I was like, I'm back at 100%. My body's all right. But again, an unforgettable experience. Saturday Night Live. You could do it if you wanted to. You can get online. You can look at all that stuff. We're actually the Amy Schumer episode's tomorrow, and we were thinking if we're in Midtown today, we might swing by just to look at the line and kind of maybe go and just look at Dallas 48 and just say.
Dylan
Hello,
could
old
judge
friend.
how many people are in line to watch a woman try to be funny because he doesn't think women are funny.
Hey, dude, how was I Feel Pretty?
Oh man, women are really funny and should have been used to more comedic effect. in
No,
that
I
movie.
honestly in SNL. I mean, Cecily Strong killed it. So I'll disregard everything you just said. This is just like the soundbite. Like it's not. He's lying. It's not true. But no, it was unforgettable experience. Bucket list eligible. I kept saying that. Like a meteor could crash into Earth and out, and I'm good because I saw SNL.
Yeah.
But I mean, I will say next time I go to SNL, I'll be hosting. That's kind of my thing. Next time I'm
damn.
hosting. Is that cool?
Yeah, I'll probably be writing sketches for you, and they'll probably be really
Cool.
bad ones to
Yeah,
sabotage
I'll
you.
probably shut you down. I'll be like, that's not very good.
Ooh.
It doesn't make me look good. Man, I think that's it, Chris. Any other final notes or thoughts on Saturday Night Live?
No, if you're a fan, I think it's definitely worth doing it.
Yeah. 22 hours is not that bad, especially if you got a buddy who you can
Yeah.
just talk with a lot. We talked about movies. We talked about just like random stuff, and the time flew by. There was a few hours that went super slow, but it flew by, and it was worth it. And that rush and that experience was unreal.
It was
yeah.
one of the coolest things I've done in New York for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to conclude our episode of Hey Dylan, Saturday Night Live edition. Chris, thanks so much for coming all this way.
Oh, no problem.
Bill
It's
could
always
not make it today. Bill gets Fridays off. We don't usually record on Fridays, but
I am never going to get to meet producer Bill.
You will.
Like, I've been
You
here
will.
twice now.
Well, I mean, you're gonna meet him eventually. Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe on iTunes, leave a 5-star review. And I'll read it on this show. And also, this is on YouTube, so you can go on YouTube and like, subscribe, comment. If you have any more questions about this, send it to your friends and be like, "Hey, look, you want to go to SNL? You're going to New York."
We
go
can
do it.
confirm that this is better than the girl with the remote blog. We're now the
This-
essential.
that would be cool.
Pre-listening before SNL.
That would be cool. We could totally make that. Even though that girl, like, I'm pretty sure she doesn't she probably has so many other blog entries, but that one is like so famous in terms of how many people use it. But anyways, thank you so much to the girl with the remote. Thank you to Saturday Night Live. Thank you to Tim F as well. I'll say. I won't say his name. Chris, thank you for sitting in line with me, man, and not getting pizza, but eating Chick-fil-A twice.
Sure.
That was pretty brutal on my body over the past few days. So, again, guys, thanks so much. We'll see you next time.